Good evening. Today is Thursday, May 16th, 2019. The time is 7:14 p.m. This is the monthly meeting of the Beech Grove Redevelopment Commission. I would ask our members starting to our right to introduce themselves for this evening.
I'm Paul Kaiser, the school board non-voting representative.
Kathy Chappell, secretary.
Ed Bell.
Donald Webb, I'm the president. Ron and Tara are out tonight. So our first order of business will be approving the April minutes. Any additions, corrections? If not, I think they look wonderful as usual.
Yeah, I reviewed them and don't see any change.
Then I'd ask for a motion to approve the minutes.
I'll make said motion.
Second,
Second.
all in favor?
Aye.
Minutes are approved. Next is the payment of the bills. The following bills we have, Borgerman Enterprises for $925.85 and $125. Kevin Parsons and Associates for $81.80. Crossroads Engineers, $10,250, $6,220, and $5,787.50. Tim Showalter, $225. Lewis Capps, $998 and $1430. Jeff Peters and Consultants, $2776.38. And Kevin Parsons and Associates, $8842.40 for a grand total of $37,736.08. If there are no questions, I'd ask for a motion to approve the payment of those bills.
I make motion.
Second?
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. I'll let you sign those. Yep. And with that, Jeff, we can do your presentation so you can get home.
May have to swim home, but
As always, appreciate the opportunity to be here. I'm Jeff Peters with Peters Municipal Consultants. Serve as the financial advisors for the city as well as the Redevelopment Commission. And the two things that I was requested to provide for you tonight are your annual presentation for taxpayers, as well as your assessed value pass-through calculation. The first one in the bigger report is the annual presentation to taxing units. This was a new statute that was provided. There's not a whole lot of guidance on it. If you flip to the second page, statute basically says that each redevelopment commission shall annually present information for the governing bodies of all taxing units that have territory within an allocation area of the redevelopment commission. Presentation shall be made at a meeting of the redevelopment commission and must include the following. 1, the commission's budget with respect to allocated property tax proceeds. 2, the long-term plans of the allocation area. And 3, the impact of each taxing unit. So this report is designed to hit those 3 points for you and provide that information. On an overview as well, the Beech Grove Redevelopment Commission controls 2 allocation areas. The Regional Medical Center that's set to expire on 1/31 of 34, and the Beech Grove Expanded Allocation Area that's set to expire on 4/4 of 30. Next page in is a cash flow long-term financial plans for the allocation area. And this is basically to show for 2018, 19, and 20. Where did you actually finish in 2018? You began the year with about $570,000 in cash, had receipts of almost $818,000, spent $666,000, vast majority of that on debt service for your outstanding bonds, to end the year with approximately $721,000. In 2019, based on the based on the abstract of taxes for Marion County, You're due about another $799,000 in revenue. Debt service is about $513,000. You've got some projects slated that could amount to $491,500. If you receive all those receipts as anticipated and make all of your expenditures, you would end the year with about $515,000. In 2020 and forward, we looked at your beginning cash, your 2020 revenue versus your 2020 expenditures. But then we added in, you have $240,000 in cash in a separate fund that is going to be used to pay for future debt service. When you refinanced the bonds in 2016, you were required to put a certain amount aside, and that's that $240,000. Future debt service payments, you have about $531,000 outstanding. And then we were looking at potential future projects of about $500,000. If this is all that you're going to achieve out of the Redevelopment Commission through 2020's revenue, that bottom ending fund balance is negative about $250,000. So the takeaway from this is today, if we said, okay, we're done with the Redevelopment Commission, we don't have enough to cover all those projects, so you really need to continue forward. In this same example, you'll see on the AV pass-through as the support for why you need to collect all your taxes in 2020. The next page takes you through an explanation of what I just talked about in that diagram. Next page in is a tax impact. And as you know, you have a TIF area that lays in multiple townships. So you have one in Center Township, Franklin Township, Perry Township, and Warren Township. So these next 4 pages are all based on those township tax rates. The impact to both the tax rate, the circuit breaker, and actual potential property tax to be received by the different entities. This first one for Center Township, I'll just walk you through. About halfway through the top section says 2018 TIF AV. And again, this is your report based on 2018. 2019's will be different and come about a year from now. So as of 2018, the TIF AV was approximately $797,000. So the impact that we're showing is if you were to get rid of the TIF district, all these incremental assessed values would go back to the tax base. Now, a lot of people say, hey, you know, if you get rid of that TIF, we're going to get all this tax money because it's going to get redistributed to all these units of government. Well, the tax money itself doesn't get redistributed. It is the assessed value. And the assessed value is going to affect the tax rate for most of the taxing district because most of the funds that are levied within each taxing district are controlled by a maximum levy. So inputting a whole lot of assessed value only drives down the rate and shares the tax burden across a bigger group. Now, that does have an impact in that when you lower rates, you will lower the impact of circuit breaker losses and those people who hit the 1%, 2%, and 3% tax caps. So in that sense, in the taxing district, if you lower the rate and lower the circuit breaker loss, each unit of government will net collect more property tax dollars because those losses are fewer. In addition to maximum levy-driven funds, you have rate-driven funds. You can have cumulative capital development funds in cities and counties. The county does actually have one. In 2018, you had capital projects funds in schools. That'll change in 2019 as that fund becomes part of their operating levy. But in the example, again, up top for Center Township, the 2018 tax rate for the entire district was 5.2224. So $5 and 22 and 24, what is that, thousandths of a cent. If we took away, or if we added back in all the assessed value, that rate would change to the far outside column to 5.2158. If the rate dropped from 5.224 to 5.218, this is in the middle section of circuit breaker, and again, we just did a linear projection. These are actually 4 different arcs, but for estimation purposes, we just made it linear. So if the rate drops from 5.224 in this taxing district, the 2018 circuit breaker amount was $1,428,176. We would anticipate that amount to fall to $1,426,382. Therefore, reduced circuit breakers would be $1,794. If you split that between all of the taxing district rates throughout that taxing district, that next section below, you'll see how much gets attributed to each unit of government. Like Marion County would get $134, Center Township would get $20 of that $1,794, et cetera. The bottom section down below, we look at, for those funds that actually had a fixed rate for their cumulative funds, Marion County and Beech Grove Schools, there's a special transportation cumulative fund and a health and hospital cumulative fund. Each of those, if you were to add $797,000 in assessed value, they would actually create or generate more property tax dollars because you would apply the same rate to a greater AV. So those amounts are in the first column in the bottom section under property tax. And you'd see that would amount to about $1,946. Whenever you levy a dollar of property tax, you garner piggyback taxes in the form of bank personal property, vehicle excise taxes, and commercial vehicle excise taxes. So, when you go into the license branch and you tell them, where you live, they make sure the money that you pay in for your vehicle excise taxes come back to the units of government that provide you service. So this is the piggyback taxes in the second column that says other tax. And in Beech Grove, it's about 5.5 cents per dollar. So on that $1,946, there's another $107 for a total tax increase potential of $2,053. Far right-hand section in the bottom, we summed circuit breaker and the other taxes together to get you a total impact of $3,847. So for the Center Township section, impact to all the overlapping taxing districts, if we gave all that money back, would give them an additional about $3,847. Franklin Township, same analysis. We'll just skip to the bottom right. Total impact would be about $49,146. Third page is Perry. Impact would be about $157,550, and that's on a little over $18 million in incremental AV. Warren Township would be about $2,892. And then the next page, we summed all these together to look at what does each unit of government give up or potentially could have brought back to them if you released all the assessed value. Total is about $213,000. And what I always like to tell people, to kind of think about and consider is, in this area, you get about $799,000. If you give away all that and put it back in the tax base, these units of government are only going to get another $213,000. So there's $600,000 that you can only get using the mechanism of TIF. And assuming that you use it for projects that are beneficial to the entire community, it's a great tool. Be happy to answer any questions on that.
So, I understand all the mathematical aspect of it. So, where does that money magically go? Is it not taxed? The difference between the 7 and the 213?
It would go back to tax relief to
Right.
taxpayers.
Okay, yep, that's what I thought.
So yeah, that is the rub. They would see a decrease. But again, under the current scenario that you're in, they've been in this scenario for 15+ years now.
Even with the tax circuit breaker. Okay. Thank you.
Any other questions on that one?
I think it looks pretty good, Jeff.
Okay.
Great information.
Yeah.
Thank you. Okay, if
I
not,
think it spells out where we are and the advantages of an RDC at this point in time.
yeah, and you know, that's one of the things I always like to, when I get to the end of that analysis, to, you know, compare the two. And, you know, I think it's one of those things that is good to educate taxpayers on, say, you know, what have we really done with that money? What have we achieved?
We've done good things with that money.
Yeah,
We've
and
done great things.
there's no other way that you could have done that, other than TIF. You
Absolutely.
know, you can't do excess levy appeals, you know, you can issue debt, but you can't do it in that form where you get to concentrate all that money
Right.
into one common goal.
I just lost it, my thought. Brain work. Our bonds are up in 21, right?
I believe so, 21
Well,
or
I saw a
22.
thing where you had, where the 240,000 came back in 2020. Can we pay them off in 2020? Or we still,
Potentially, we'd have to look at cash. I threw them in the 2020 column because I put all future
okay.
revenue in it, well, not revenue. I put all future assets available.
But theoretically, we could pay them off a year early, but it probably is not a whole lot of advantage to it. But 2021 is when they'll expire, correct?
Yeah, and I think I would have to backpedal. You refinanced those in 16.
Yes, sir.
I can't recall whether they had a parameter that allows them not to be prepaid.
Right.
I
'Cause
thought,
typically on bond issues, we have a 10-year window before we can call them.
I thought Regions said
I
we could
think
pay them a year early. That's what I'm remembering, but I can be wrong.
Okay, they may
Really?
have.
I don't remember that.
Yeah, because we talked about we could pay them off a year early. Because I mean, the great thing about refinancing them is too, we went from having to keep, I think, like 590,000 on reserve
Down to
only
240.
240.
Right.
And that freed up some money. So
Didn't we save about 137,000?
yes, we did.
137,000?
I believe so.
That was thanks to Jeff again.
Yes.
Having a good financial advisor is very smart, I think.
Second report you have before you, annually, you are required to look at, are there any amounts available to, in incremental assessed value that you can pass back to the tax base? And again, one of the parameters that you need to consider is, what security did we provide to bondholders when we sold these? These TIF bonds were sold, in the term we use, is naked. They have no backup on them at all. So it's all the revenue versus the ability to get them paid off before the revenue went away. In that circumstance, there is no backup. You know, today, and Donald and I had this conversation earlier, today we could never sell them that way. We'd never make them, we'd never get them marketed at a decent interest rate. So you would typically back them with either property tax or local income taxes. So these, particularly because they have no backup, I would be very sensitive to ever give back any of this assessed value until they were fully paid off,
Right.
because you do not want to impair the bondholders. And that attachment in page 2, again, is the same one that we looked at before, and the conclusion is the ending fund balance at 2020 is negative. Therefore, for you to accomplish these goals, pay off the debt with the cash that you have, and all the amount that we would anticipate for 2020 still doesn't give you enough money to retire all your debts and cover all your projects that you potentially have to work on. That being the case, you can't give back any AV in 2020, and we would anticipate you're gonna have to harvest some in the future as well. One thing that I would bring before you to kind of think about is that I think the scope of the redevelopment commission when it was established and the projects were broader than what you've probably pursued to this point. You are getting to the end of the debt service. Your revenue stream continues to be there, so there should be money between now and 2030 that you may want to consider additional projects for, if you want to continue and work on other things for the community. This would probably be the time to start to plan those.
Very good.
And again, that's kind of that whole realm of, you know, do I give back $800,000 a year in order to get 200?
Right.
Yeah.
Not the best trade I would make, but again, you know, as you brought up, it goes back to taxpayers, so
Yeah,
that
but
is a
the-
consideration as well.
The ability to, that has happened from my position when I wasn't doing this is we're getting roads paved, we're getting other things done, which is gonna increase the assessed valuation of our community, which is gonna bring more people to here, and they're gonna fix up houses, so you guys don't have to go after them. I just, you know, as the superintendent, I wanna see the RDC go forward and keep on doing great things, cause it's gonna bring, people to the community. I mean, we've got new businesses downtown, one that's just opened, another one's gonna open here in August, and the more we can do to spruce up Beech Grove between now and 2030, the better we're gonna be beyond that, from my perspective. So, you know, there's always needs for, we're talking about building tennis courts. It'd be great to have RDC put lights on the tennis courts as a community. I mean, there's a ton of needs for our community moving forward.
Right.
So I hope the RDC stays moving forward in the positive way it's moving. A lot of great things to be done.
Agree.
And in 2021, there'll be some opportunity to do some more than we're doing right now.
And that's the big thing, is after 2021, we have almost $1 million a year then. That's not going to bonds or anything that we can put into the community.
Yep.
So that'd be like 9 years or $9 million of investment into this small town.
If you just saw, I just read tonight, the Greenwood RDC through the city is donating $1 million to C9, and that's where all our kids go on this, from Perry, Franklin, they all go to C9.
Is that Central 9?
Yeah, Central
Okay.
9, because Cummins is building a huge new $35 million facility in Greenwood on the interchange. And part of that deal is for the city/RDC to give the school that we all benefit here on the south side $1 million for new technology. So
Wow.
there's a lot of positive things that can be done with that money. So,
I went to C9 for a year.
great program.
Great school.
We have kids going out of C9 right now that go right into, right in the workforce, making $40,000, $50,000, $60,000 a year
Absolutely.
after 2 years at C9.
When I went to school, there were plenty of kids that went down there, heating, air conditioning, the trades and all that. I mean, I think it's a wonderful, I wish they had more of those.
So the future is bright.
Well, thank you very much, Jeff, and thank you for doing this again.
Thank you.
That's why we have you. I mean, it's smart to have somebody who knows what they're doing, because we're a volunteer board, and like I say, at times I kind of glassed over on some of this because it gets confusing, especially the circuit breaker part of it, you know, and it's like accounting 101, and I took accounting once and it was painful, so I felt like I was back in that class almost. So I do appreciate you doing this, because most important thing to our board is that what we report out is accurate, honest, and transparent. And you can't get any more accurate, honest, and transparent than this. So I really do appreciate it, and thank you for doing it.
Thank you.
That's great.
I agree. Just to let you guys know, I emailed Kevin Parsons and told him, yeah, we're not doing $500,000 in signs. That's insane. But, you know, when my wife graduated last Saturday, and we drove down to Oakland City. And one of the things I did notice on the new I-69, when you get to Bloomington, they just have signs on the interstate that says Bloomington.
You mean
And when-
across the interstate,
Yeah, there's
much
simple-
like Carlsbad?
Yeah, it's just simple signs, and I inquired into them as, can we simplify it and make it less expensive? And I said, maybe come back in August and let us know, because we're off in June and July. July, I have a feeling we're gonna have some interesting things coming up, so.
Perhaps from CSX? Good.
Well, before you got here, we talked about, brought up about Westfield. Westfield has a very similar sign to that, just goes straight up.
Yeah,
You don't have to put a monument in like Mooresville has done. Obviously, they got some money, in-kind money for that, but,
well, the
No.
thing, to your point, though, if you look at those intersections, like the one's got a cell phone tower in it, and I didn't realize how much stuff's around it, so all the stuff around there, I think, is gonna detract from it.
they get lost in the shuffle.
Yeah.
Or
and-
something like this is, just like on the south side, be real simple. And I mentioned it'd be nice to know exactly where the Beech Grove boundaries are by
Right.
some really nice signage
I mean,
like this.
I was thinking either simple signs and the landscaping or something along those lines, but that got out of control in a hurry. I'm sorry to say.
Because I went back through my minutes, Ed and I went back through my minutes one day and it said, you know, $75,000-$80,000 each.
Yeah,
So we're
that's how
thinking
it started.
150, 160. Holy cow.
Well, that's what I'm saying. I think there's gotta be a way, science can, you know, and again, if it was, I know you've got NDOT and all that involved, but it should not be, I mean, like I say, those two signs were more than twice the average value of homes in Beech
Oh,
Grove.
yeah.
And
Well-
it's just, you can't justify that.
I believe Kevin knew that too.
Yeah, I'm not sure on that. I just know that was unreasonable.
Well, that's just way too much money when there's so many other things that we could spread that money out
Exactly.
doing, you know.
Yeah.
I can think of 3 things right off the top of my head that I would prefer.
Yeah.
But I like this idea, the idea that you just mentioned. I think that'd be great.
Well, like I say,
Yeah.
we can definitely come back to them and say, what about something simple like that?
Well, it depends on where it is too. You could have some, like Emerson, where it's really visual.
Yeah.
You could have them going across, and other places like, I learned about the roundabout today. You could have those like on the sides of the roundabout, saying Beech Grove, that are, you know, I mean, there's a lot of things you can do.
Yeah, I think the signage idea throughout Beech Grove is just not a bad idea.
Oh,
And I mentioned to Mayor Buckley, I said, you know, as, depending on what happens down the road, I said, you know, we just bid our banking services, and the amount of money that we're gonna bring in from that, and, you know, the city and already, whatever, you know, you could look at using some sponsorship to
Right.
sponsor the signs to,
Oh,
over a
absolutely.
period of time, so. I think
And I
one,
think you could get sponsorship pretty easy.
I think one of the local banking institutions would jump on that, so.
Yeah,
I think
long
that's a great
term,
idea.
that's,
Wasn't it 1.2 over 10 years?
Ours is 1.2. When you talk about the money they're giving us and the interest, you know, it adds up to almost 1.2 million over 10 years. That
well, that's,
we were paying fees and losing money with our previous bank. And now over the next 10 years, and, you know, it'd be nice to have that up front. You don't get it up front, but on an annual basis,
you know,
we're talking $100,000 a year that we'll be able to use for things.
And in return, how do they let people know that they were sponsors?
They'll sponsor one of our athletic fields. We're not sure which one. We're still seeking other sponsors, but either football or baseball or something. We'll put a sign up that says, you know, we'd like to name it's not football, our stadium, because, you know, band's on it as much as football and track. We'd like to call it Veterans Field, have a veterans monument, and then, you know, we'd have some kind of signage, you know, Teachers Credit, sponsored by Teachers Credit Union or something of that nature, so.
I think the Colts is Farm Bureau,
Farm Bureaus.
Farm Bureaus
Yeah.
everywhere. They just
Yeah.
remodeled again out there.
Right.
Yeah. I'm not above asking.
still gotta get that field turf and maybe get that field a little level.
That's an interesting topic I'll share with you sometime.
Either that or you gotta get fall protection, cause when you're at the crest of that hill, it's
Did
a
you-
long ways downhill.
Well, I've got quotes on that, and I need to do a little bit more sponsorship, but we're working on that.
Have you contacted Colts?
I actually have their website and that's on my list of things to do. My new athletic director has provided that to me, I gotta work it into the mix,
Gotcha.
they have a grant application for that. And I think Beech Grove would qualify,
They're very generous.
yes.
They really are.
And the gentleman who put,
Marion County are very generous.
I know they are. I
well,
know
the
they
gentleman
are.
who does the Colts fields, Greg Hibbler, is one of my former students at Decatur. He puts all the fields in for the Colts and a lot of the, great guy. So I'll get him, he knows the
There you
field
go.
people there very well, so, you know. We even talked about one time trying to get one of their old fields and put it in,
Well, yeah.
so, but
I mean, honestly, the middle school field's a better field than the high school.
Is
it
it?
is.
That
Oh,
doesn't surprise me.
It is,
I mean, it is, it's a much.
it's flatter,
Yeah, it's flatter and it's a nicer field.
yeah, it is.
Okay,
They're all bad.
yeah.
Yeah.
We'll give you an example.
What else
Our-
we got to talk about?
We covered the signs. Did you have anything, Robert? Or-
Can you talk a little bit about the meeting today, or is that still something
That's,
Some we
kind
need
of
to
low
keep
key?
under wraps right now still.
what you all have heard is, it sounds to me like there's progress being made, but it will probably be towards the middle to end of June before we hear anything again.
So maybe by our July meeting,
By our
we'll be
July
able to.
meet, that's what I'm saying, and Robert had mentioned something, if things come to fruition and this turns out to be promising, Robert has mentioned we may wanna hold a work session because.
It's a public meeting, but it's not like you're voting on anything.
I like we did that one Saturday where everybody came.
You discuss, you've got time, you're not crunched, and you know, you consider maybe where you want to go, whether or not there's adjustments that need to be made to the TIF areas, and whether or not the plan needs to be amended because it goes back to 2008.
It's, I will say this, and Jeff and Robert were there, the future could be really promising, and there's a lot of, to me, interesting opportunities that we could have a busy fall, for the RDC, so, enjoy your summer break, cause like I say, when we come back in July, we could be, Jeff, Robert, and all of us could be real busy, so. I think it's good news for Beech Grove, and it's really positive, so.
Good.
And then, like I say, the Greenway's progressing. Dennis did mention that. He couldn't be here tonight. He had a fundraiser for Holy Name that he had to attend.
Who did? Dennis? Oh,
So, but, you know, everything else is looking good, so, other than that, I think we can have a short meeting, because I think we've covered everything we need to, unless anybody has anything.
no, but I wanted to ask Robert, a workshop for the public to attend?
It's called a work session.
Work session?
And it's not an executive session, so the public is free to attend. It's not something that needs to be advertised, it needs to be posted and media.
Would they be able to have input,
If they're
or is it
here,
closed to
no,
that?
It's just an observation.
Okay, that's what I thought.
We do those all the time, like last,
Okay.
Tuesday night, we had a regular meeting, we had a work session, public's invited to attend and sit there and listen.
The one we
It's
did
not a
that Saturday
participation
worked
session.
out pretty well. It was, what, 3 hours?
Yeah.
And I think, you know,
Yeah, usually they're not held at the regular times that, from my other clients, they will have them either, like in the afternoon or Saturday morning.
Yeah.
We have ours like since we meet on Tuesdays, we'll have ours on a Tuesday that's not a regular board meeting, because, you know.
well, with this one, and what we're talking about, we'd like, again, it'll depend, we'd like to have the city council in on it too. Because it's gonna take a coordinated effort on this. Like I say, it's, you know, we're just working ahead on it, but it'll be good news, I believe.
And we would talk about whatever's transpiring and what we would do with TIF funds?
Perhaps.
Perhaps.
Okay,
I mean, there's opportunities that could spring from this that will potentially enhance Beech Grove in different ways and the RDC in different ways, so.
good.
I mean, there's a lot of good news, and, you know, everything sounds pretty reasonable at this point,
Good.
so. Anybody have anything else?
No, so is Kevin gonna work on something, a simpler type of design?
That
Or
is what I
should we
have.
send him one of these
I
thinking?
I told him about the Mooresville, and I asked him to, yes, to start working on simplification, that that $447,000 design is out of control.
Well, I
and we
get
don't-
that, but if something like this wouldn't have anything to do with the interstate, I mean, are we gonna,
That's a
we don't want
I
him to
mentioned the
continue
signs
to
on the
work on the interstate if we're not,
Are we talking about like this over Emerson Avenue?
That's how it was when I was in
That was-
Carlsbad.
that's
That's what,
over highway
it was on
there.
that was on the main drag in downtown Carlsbad as
or
you
even a
came,
vertical sign in the,
yeah, as you came from,
Vertical sign is some, would be quite a bit simpler, like
Yeah.
the ones I've seen in Westfield.
yeah.
yeah, I think that'd be kinda cool.
It's
in the
almost,
center.
it's almost like a backstop you have in sports, but a little nicer with the names of the town.
I'm only bringing that up because if we don't give Kevin some direction, he'll still focus on doing
Right.
something right
I'm-
by the interstate. I
I
don't want
will-
him to keep working on that if we're thinking that's not what we want now.
I'll email him tomorrow and I'll CC all of you on it and let him know and that we're done with that, but we want something simpler.
He could even pull that off. I saw
Right.
this on the internet,
Right,
so.
yeah, I mean, we want signage that's a little cheaper, cause that, yeah,
A
we
lot
just,
cheaper.
well, I mean, the lighting on
Not
it to
a
me
little.
was incredible.
Well, the location makes it hard to get utilities.
Oh,
If you're going
yeah.
off Emerson,
Yeah.
utilities are there.
Exactly.
You know, you don't have to get, I would assume that I'll look at Bob and even though your regulations, you're not dealing with the state highway department as much as you are, you know, other entities, so you might have some more simplicity.
I don't know exactly where NDOT's authority begins and ends.
Right.
In terms of the utilities, it was $100,000 just to put power to,
Exactly.
And that's ridiculous.
But they said they had to bore under,
IPL.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They have to put two posts.
Well, you could
so we
choose,
pay
you
$200
could choose
for
your
a sign
location
and $100,000
based on where
for
power
lighting.
is located.
Right,
As you go down Emerson, you can look at a location where I mean, if you go down by the railroad tracks somewhere in that area, there's already power in that area, so you're
Right.
not,
Right.
so you could strategically place it where you're in no man's land.
that wouldn't be a horrible sign coming in off of Emerson Avenue going south, with the welcome to Beech Grove, I mean,
Yeah.
I just think anything we can do to enhance the visibility of the community is a good thing, so.
Yeah, I just don't want Kevin to continue to work on the
No,
interstate.
I'll let him know that that's not gonna happen.
Yeah.
I just can't see, like I say, after that price tag, and, yeah, I went from where I was thinking, well, 75,000 a sign isn't bad, to, well, wait a minute, we're at over $200,000 a sign now, 250,000 a sign, seriously?
Um,
57,000 in plants. I mean, I thought that was unreasonable too.
I can go to Cox's plant farm out on US 40 and get them a little cheaper now.
Well, I think you could go to Lowe's and get them cheaper. I mean, I'm just saying, the plantings they had enlisted to me
Yeah.
were ridiculous.
Well, I think there was also a lot of the permanent cement tied into that planting, not just the plants themselves.
Right.
There was a lot of structural stuff involved in
Well,
it.
they got rid of the monument slab and made it, the column slab, which brought down the cost.
I mean, if you look at downtown, when they tried to redo those, I'm still not so sure that we couldn't, again, maybe, especially with FAA and the farming aspect, that we couldn't use high school students to work and design plantings, and what plants are drought resistant or will handle bad weather, and make our intersections a little, at least more pleasing with plantings and not necessarily go as expensive on the signs.
Right.
And I think that's, because, again, if you drive over to Ohio, you will see, yeah, they have the signage, but also they have beautiful, and if you go to South Carolina, this time of year, their magnolias along the highway are blooming, and it's absolutely gorgeous. You can't believe how beautiful their intersections are.
Right.
I'm not saying we have to have it that beautiful, but it's just, again, first impressions, as you guys know. Me and the wife were talking, when you're driving through a neighborhood, it only takes one bad-looking house, and you're like, God, I wouldn't want to live next to them, and then all of a sudden, it's like, well, I don't necessarily want to live in this neighborhood, and anything we can do to improve the image of Beech Grove, I think is incredibly important.
Yep.
Okay.
Anything else?
Nope.
If not, I will ask for a motion to adjourn the meeting at 7:54 PM.
I'll make said motion.
Second?
Second.
Meeting is adjourned. Thank you. We will see you in July.